1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever.
Stay, what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Y'all already know what it is, man. We back on another interview once again. We got KC back in the house, man. KC, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing real good.
That's what's up, man. So, like yesterday, KC, you reached back out to me, man. You said you wanted to do another interview. You said you wanted to do a part 2. I guess you had read some of the comments, and you said some people was asking, "Hey, man, what happened? What happened to the second fight and all that old type of stuff?" And so you just wanted to do that, right?
Yeah. I'm old school. You know, you got to tell a whole story because there's always 3 sides to a story. His side, my side, and the truth.
Right.
And so unless you get everybody's side, you can't determine what the truth is.
And then so when we did the interview last time, just to keep it official, me and you had talked, about doing the interview because you had told me you had started going to the pen like somewhere around in 78. And then so we had set the interview up. Then after that, I sent you the link to the Rick Rock. Because I said, Rick Rock did a story talking about you. Is it cool if we talk about this? And I sent you the link to it. But then when we got ready to do the interview, I said, hey, did you get a chance to see the interview? And to be fair to KC said, no, I didn't get a chance to see it. KC drive trucks or whatever. So he didn't get a chance to see it. So when we did the interview and then he spoke about the first fight, I didn't want to just be messy and say, well, hey, man, what happened to the second fight? Rick Rock said it was a second fight. So since you didn't bring it up, I didn't want to bring it up. And that's why we didn't go into that. Right. But then, like I said, upon KC reading some of the comments, he said he felt he should be fair and talk about that as well, man.
Yeah, that's right.
So okay, KC, let's hop right into it, man, because everybody wants to know, man. So let's get right into it then.
Okay.
So how long did the second fight happen after the first fight?
Probably a couple of days. Because we both had to go back to work. I think we had different schedules by a day or so. So we got into the second fight probably 2 days later.
Now, after the first fight was cause like you said at that time, man, you was in your 50s or whatever, Rick Rock, he was running around, off the chain with the business, so on and so forth. Did you have any feelings like that it was going to be another fight? Did you think everything was over or what was your feelings on that?
Actually, I thought everything was over. And to be honest, a lot of guys were trying to, I guess, pump him up. And I went to him and said, look, man, don't let these guys pump it up for us to get into it again.
Right.
And he told me, straight out, he said, nobody's pumping me up. He said, I need that. Okay.
And so the first fight, he said he was drunk. And then you were saying that when we talked the second time, you said, yeah, he was drunk. So he was drunk the first time?
Yeah, he was had been drinking.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I can't determine if he was drunk or not, but I mean, I don't know how much he drank, but he had been drinking.
And then so what happened leading up to the second fight? Explain that to us.
Well, after he said he needed that, I said, okay, and we both got back to work. And then we got back to work during our break, like all the staff leave out the central kitchen and go to the staff office where they have their lunch. and then we all in the back and where we have our lunch at or dinner or whatever time it was, right? And so Rick Rock said, "You ready?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we proceeded to get in a fight. And I want to say this: I'm 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 from the generation that if you fight and win or lose, you accept the consequences. If you want another fight, you get another fight. You know yourself, Teal. Some guys can't accept defeat, and what they do is they go get a gun or a knife if you're
Right.
in prison.
Right.
To Rick Rock's credit, he didn't do none of that. He just, I want to head up fate. So I had mad respect on him for that because he could have got a knife, stabbed me when I wasn't looking, anything like that. But he was straight up with it.
Did
So
you have any concerns about him getting a knife? Or did you just feel he was going to be, ahead of fate?
Rick Rock always said what he was going to do, and he did what he said. If he said he wanted to head up fate, you took him at his word because he never did anything low. You know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't say, yeah, we gonna fight. Then you look up and you getting jumped. If he said he wanted to fight with you, that's what he did. Fought with you. Nobody jumped in. It was just him and whoever it was. You know what I mean? So he was a pretty honorable guy. So when he said it, I didn't have any worries or anything like that.
Right. So give us, can you can you give us like a detailed version of the fight? What happened, man? Did y'all go fight in the same spot that y'all fought the last time? Walk us through it, KC. Give it to us, man. Give it to us.
Okay. We basically fought in the same place, right? And you know how it is in prison. Everybody wanted to see what was going on because a lot of people, it was only 3, maybe 4 people tops who witnessed the first fight.
Right.
So when they heard about it, everybody wanted to see what was going on. So Rick Rock and I, we fought. Okay, we fought. Wasn't nothing dramatic on the surface. I gotta say that there was nothing dramatic on the surface. Nobody got like black eyes and all of that stuff. Did nobody like pound each other? But none of that on the surface.
Right.
Okay, but keeping it a buck, it wasn't the same Rick Rock. He came focused. He came focused and he came on a mission, right? And, his mission was clear, right? Now I'm going to tell you some things I've never told anybody else ever. Okay, when me and Rick Rock started fighting, we throwing punches, and we both were kind of tentative at first. Rick Rock's a big guy, so you don't want to rush in there and get two-pieced. You know what I mean? End up on your back looking at the ceiling. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he was kind of tentative because of the previous fight. You know what I mean? You kind of apprehensive, but he was focused. And so we fighting, we swinging, we ducking each other's punches and stuff. And Rick Rock, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm in there trying to, do all this, move like I was, and he hit me in the mouth. And when he hit me in the mouth, I mean solid, knuckled, I mean solid. Boom! And I said, wait a minute, hold up. I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. So Rick Rock stepped back, and I looked at him and said, that was a good punch. From now on, that's how you punch. Everybody started laughing.
That's what you told him in the middle of the fight?
In the middle of the fight. But now people thought it was funny, but I'm going to tell you the real. I never told anybody. Rick Rock hit me so hard. You know what I'm saying? If you'd have kept fighting after that, it'd have been bad, right? So when I stopped the fight, I was thinking to myself, he got something in his hand. He got a lock or something, right? But it was just a punch. You know what I mean? But I thought I was hit with a rock or something. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, that's just him hitting. So at that point, when I realized he didn't have nothing in his hand, you make the conscious decision. You don't want to get hit with one of those punches again, right?
Right.
So we kept on fighting. and we ducking, all this sort of stuff. So we fought until we got tired. Once we got tired, we stopped and shook hands. We hugged, and that was it.
Right.
Now, on the surface, it looked like just a regular, they was just throwing punches. But the next day, I had ooey knots all over my head, right? Now, even though he would swing and I would try to slip the punch, it's going to catch you. It might not catch you straight in the face, but it catches you, right? And you done been in fights where you didn't got hit and you end up the next day feeling places that you got hit that you didn't know you got hit.
Right, because at the time you fighting, the adrenaline is pumping, you going and all that stuff.
Right. And then your hat don't fit right no more because now you got all these swollen spots on your head, right? I was like, damn. And I had to give him his props. I was thinking to myself, that youngster hit hard, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think he wasn't, how some dudes swing for the bleachers and try to knock you out one punch?
Yeah.
He wasn't doing that. He was just regular fighting. Now, I was going to try to be slick and, come in and bob and weave and stuff, but he countered that. He threw so many punches so quick, I thought I was fighting a couple of people. At first, I thought I was getting jumped, right? Because it was just too many punches at one time.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I realized, okay, this dude, he's serious, right? So then after that, like I said, we made up, and people thought it was a draw. But between me and you, if we were in a boxing ring and they gave us, how like you see some boxing matches, and they'll give more points to one person and another say he landed more punches, and
Right.
you'll look at it like, where? I didn't see all them punches landed. A lot of times you don't see them. So I look at it realistically. If we were in a ring and they had to score the fight, I give him his props. He would have won clearly.
Yeah.
That would have been him. There was nothing I could say. That would have been him all the way. Even though we didn't get beat up in the face and all of that stuff, he clearly scared more punches.
Uh-huh. Did he come close to knocking you out or anything like that, or it was just he just got more punches in?
No, the first one, it wasn't close to knocking me out, but you ever been hit and it get your attention?
It definitely woke you up, huh?
Yeah, it gets your attention like, okay, I can't take another one of those punches. You know what I mean? So yeah, he just, sometimes if you have your head in the right position, you'll feel the punch, but it won't, you know what I mean? And
right.
The brother done that.
But that's what I was gonna say too. You have some cats in the comments saying this and they saying that, and a lot of people fail to realize, man, first and foremost, that was something that happened literally over probably about in the early 2000s, so probably about 22, 23 years, 22, 23 years, and dudes were saying, well, hey man, if he was this age and he's this age now, and I know, because for me, I couldn't even remember exactly what time of the year it happened. I thought that it happened before I ended up going to Sea Yard after I got caught up in the riot with the white dudes. But no, now that I think about it, I think it happened after when I came back. So, people fail to realize, though, that, man, that's been a long time, 23, 24 years, however long it's been.
Yeah. It might have happened later because I think right after that, we moved yards. So they moved us off of A yard and moved us, a lot of us, to C and D yard.
Okay, see, so I was gone when that happened because I left.
Yeah.
I left A yard and ended up going to my points that dropped. I left A yard and went across the street to Chuckawalla. A lot of times, like I say, that would be the reason for when you'll have, a couple of individuals who tell a story and you may have some different events, or because you remember the story being about some sugar. I think he said the story was about a honey bun. So
cinnamon rolls, yeah,
cinnamon roll, yeah. So from time to time, man, due to the amount of time that has elapsed, you're gonna have some different incidents or whatever. So after that, though, everything was good between y'all. Y'all continued to work in the kitchen without no problems.
Yeah, we were good because everybody who was there at that time, they remember I used to hang around with the Hub and the Dub. I hung around them so much, people thought I was from the Hub and the Dub.
Yeah.
And so
And
they used to ask me, what part of Compton you from? What part of Watts you from? I'm not from Compton or Watts.
so, KC, after the last interview, you did have several people in the comments wondering where you grew up from and what area you was from and so on and so forth. So where actually did you grow up?
In LA. You know, one of the things that I will never do, because when I first came to the pen, there was a protocol we were taught, right? You never volunteer any information, ever, right? And in one of the interviews, I was telling you how when we get off the bus, how they ask you where you were from. And one of the things they do now is anytime you admit to anything, self-admission can be used against you later on for any type of prosecution. So I will never ever say that I was part of any gang on camera, on record, or anything. If
Right.
the people who grew up in LA, and if I told them right now what's over there, a lot of people like, oh, okay, but you have to be around my age or maybe just a little younger to remember Devil's Dips. You know, we used to go over there and ride our bikes and chase rabbits and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? So the people who really grew up in LA would know.
So you grew up by a spot called Devil's Dips?
Yep.
And then KC, so you were saying that when you went to the pen, the older cats back then, they taught you guys never to give up any self-incriminating information. What are some of the things that they taught you guys also? I mean, how was prison back when you first started going in the mid to late 70s as opposed to how it was later on?
People don't understand because they look at prison now and they really don't understand how the prison population was back then. And I'm not saying nothing that they can't look up. Like there's more Hispanics in prison now than any other race. When I first came to the prison was 60% black. Okay, all yards, 60% black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think Hispanics made up about 25%. So black unity was a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't no division. Division wasn't tolerated. You know, you're part of us, period. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? There's certain things you couldn't do, and my homie said I couldn't do this. That would get you and your homie's head bent. You know what I mean? There was a certain protocol you had to follow, period. One of the protocols was if you didn't have a high school diploma, it was mandatory you went to school. You didn't have a
Uh-huh.
choice. You know what I mean? The brothers came around and they knew before you got to Chino was a southern reception center, and your file beat you to prison. Okay, when your file beat you to prison, they knew who you were, what crime you had, how much time you had. So when you got to prison, they knew your grade point level and everything. And inmates ran everything. The police just turned the keys.
Mm-hmm.
So when you went to whatever building you were going to, or whatever yard you were going to, they placed you in education. And then the big dogs of that yard would come see you. They would greet you and see what you needed and help you get settled in. And they would tell you tomorrow, I'm going to take you and introduce you to the teacher so you can get in school.
And
So you
so
didn't have a choice.
So let me ask you a question, piggybacking off something that you said. So you said that the big dogs would come and make sure that you was all right. Were there shot callers back then for the black certain dudes who ran the yard, or how did that work back then?
Yeah, there were shot callers who ran the yard. You know what I mean? Just like you see shot callers in other races running the yards now. Yeah, shot callers ran the yard. And even though like the northern car was different than the southern car, that was different than the San Diego car and all of that stuff, you still fell up under a certain protocol because before anybody moved, they talked to the leaders of those particular cars. You know what I mean? Because the southern brothers couldn't call shots on the northern brothers, but they went to the northern shot callers and let them know this is what's going down, this is what's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And the same thing with the northern people. Hey man, this is what happened. We finna handle some business. So, and okay, well, if it involved blacks, we were all handling business.
And so for the blacks who were from down south, who was in power at that time? I'm not talking about any specific person. I'm talking about what groups were in power as far as the blacks were concerned back then.
It depends on what prison you went to, because each prison had its own version of a Southern California car. When I was in Susanville, it was the LA car, LA San Diego car. Even though they were different, they were still one car. When if LA moved, San Diego moved. San Diego moved, LA moved. And it didn't make a difference if you was a blood or crip or whatever you were. If you were part of the LA car, that's what you rep, LA car. You know what I mean? And when I went to Tracy, it was the Vanguards. Vanguards ran the LA, the Southern California car.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And a lot of dudes didn't join organizations. They were just independent, by themselves and all that stuff. But you still fell up under that structure. Just because you were solo, you were non-affiliate, didn't mean you can go out and do whatever you wanted to do. There was still a protocol you had to follow. You just wasn't under any structure or orders or anything like that. Like when I was in Susanville, right? I was part of the LA car, right? And when you part of the LA car, they had dorms. You know what I mean? 16-man dorms. And so because you part of a car, you had certain assignments you had to do. And one of the assignments, as new or fish and all of that stuff, was you had to do patrol. That means you had to go in and out of each dorm, walk in and out of each dorm all day until y'all recall. That was your job for the day.
And what was the purpose of that?
To make sure wasn't nobody laying up in there dead. See, it's different today than it was back then, because once you got up for breakfast, you can't get back on your bunk. You can't be laying in the bed sleep. Once the yard got up, everybody got up. You better not get caught laying in your bed. You know what I mean? Because now you're a security hazard, because somebody could cut your throat, let you die, bleed out, put you in the bed, make up the bed, put the cover over you, and would nobody know you were dead. So it wasn't no like, oh, I'm going to lay down. No, not in the dorm. You wasn't.
So let me ask you, what was if you would have to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what were the hostility between the blacks and the Southern Hispanics, and also the blacks and the whites?
Blacks and Southern Hispanics at that particular time, the hostility rating was about a 2 or a 3.
So not much.
I mean, no. Between the whites, it was probably 7 or 8. Okay, because you had a lot of the wood pile was you got certain groups, they don't care how many members they got. You know what I mean? And the wood pile was one of them. And that's what they call the whites, the wood pile. And the wood pile was like, and you had some big white dudes back then. You had white dudes with 19, 20-inch arms, who was benching 300-400 like it was, like 50, 60 pounds. And they weren't afraid. You get the little white guys that you think that you see in the neighborhood that you can bully. It wasn't happening back then. So if you went at one of them, you better know what you were doing. You better know what you were talking about, because it better not have been nothing that you created.
And so were you ever in any riots involving the blacks and the whites, and the blacks and the Hispanics back then?
Yeah, I was. That's how I ended up at Tracy Shoe, which is a security housing unit, which is the whole. I got into a riot with the Hispanics at Susanville. Some brothers decided they were going to rob this, break in this guy's cell, not cell, but his locker, and steal stuff out of his locker. And the guy came in and caught him stealing stuff out of his locker.
Mm.
So they proceeded to jump him and beat him down pretty bad. So when the Hispanics, after everybody found out, they had a meeting and they came to the brothers and they told them, "Hey man, one of your folks," because the guy was from San Diego, he said, "One of your folks, they did A, B, and C, and we want you to discipline him until we're satisfied." Well, that struck a lot of people the wrong way because you don't dictate how somebody else handled their business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was wrong. And I want to tell you, a lot of people might think, "Oh, well, they have a right." No, let me explain something to you. You know, like I know, thievery is not allowed in prison.
Right.
If you get caught stealing, you might as well be on the level of a child molester or something. Because maybe not that severe, but you know what I'm saying.
Damn near close.
The discipline is going to be so severe, especially stealing from another race.
Right.
Now that's where you close at. You're real close then. You know what I mean? And that's what they did. They got caught. First of all, you don't break in nobody's locker. Second of all, you broke in somebody's locker from another race. You know what I mean? Then to cover up what you did, you beat him up. So they were going to get dealt with severely anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But when they came and told them, "We want you to discipline until we satisfied," that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Right.
And so they was like, "Man, you don't tell us how to discipline our people." And the Hispanics at that particular time took that as I guess wasn't nothing gonna happen. I can't speak for them. I don't know. That's my take on it. So then when they came back, they were already ready. They were already ready. So as soon as they came back and the guy told them, he said, "Man, I don't think they're gonna do nothing." I guess he said, "Do what you got to do." And when he did that, all hell broke loose.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people got stabbed up that day.
And then so after that riot, you said you was transferred where?
I was transferred to DVI, Dual Vocational Institution, Tracy, Gladiator School.
Now, why was Tracy known as Gladiator School?
Because the prisons today, there's gun coverage in all the buildings. Even in the dorm, you can get gun coverage. The guy outside in the tower can shoot in the dorm. In Tracy, there was no gun coverage inside the prison. Later on they put little gun walks in there where they racked the tiers at. They had gun coverage in there after that, but at Tracy never had gun coverage in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
So everybody at Tracy had a knife. Every single person that was at Tracy had a knife. Because if, like, say me and you went to get somebody, and the police wasn't gonna do nothing but back up and yell, "Stop, stop, 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 stop." And you didn't stop till that guy took his last breath.
Mm-hmm.
So they called it Gladiator School because, I mean, literally that's what it really was. It was like gladiator fights.
And so let me ask you a question. When I came to prison in '96, if somebody would get stabbed, they would roll over there in a golf cart like type thing, put him on there, then send everybody back to their cells, maybe a week or two, depending on how long and what they feel occurred. But I heard back in the '70s, back in those times, a dude would get stabbed on the yard and they would resume normal programming. Is that true?
Yes and no. If, like, say for example, there was a molester or a known snitch or something like that, and administration knew he was going to get hurt, and they knew that it was like, say for example, this molester, they knew the stab molester was going to get stabbed up, but they knew it wasn't going to blow up into something big.
Okay.
They pick him up, take him to the infirmary, whatever, try to save his life, and then they would resume program. But if it was anything racial, You know what I mean? Then no,
Right.
you locked down for 6 to 9 months.
While you were at Gladiator school, do you think you saw many dudes get stabbed, or were there many stabbings?
A lot of stabbings, a lot. And the most shocking one for me was, I think I was in the whole, probably my second or third day, and it was yard time. We was going to the yard, and you have toilets on the yard. And if you knew, like I was a fish, 19, and they would tell you, they would say, hey, look, man, if you got to use the bathroom now. Do not use the toilet on the yard.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And like being in prison, you know how vulnerable you are to be sitting on that toilet on the yard, because anything could pop off at any time. And you're an easy victim.
Right.
You know, so we go to the yard, we playing poker and handball and stuff. So I noticed this guy go sit on the shitter. And while he sit on the shitter, he got two soldiers with him keeping oos. You know what I mean? And for those of you who don't know, Uslam is like security. They got his security. So he sit on the toilet, he finish, he get up, go wash his hands, come back to the poker table. We sitting there, and this guy won the pot, and he reached across the table to grab all of the chips, and the guy who had just got off the toilet stabbed him 3 times in the neck, real quick, bam, bam, bam. And when the last time, he broke the handle off the knife, eased up, went over by the toilet, dropped the handle of the knife, flushed it. Now I'm finna run, right? This guy's clawing at his throat, and the guys with me grabbed me and held me down and said, listen, don't run, ease up, move slow. And so you had to ease up, move slow, get toward the fence. And the gunner seen the whole yard against the fence, and he looked down and seen this guy pool of blood. So he yard down, put the yard down. He came and got him off the yard. We got stripped butt naked, and that was it. It was funny to me because in order to go to the yard in the shoot program, you had to get butt naked. They would wand your clothes with a metal detector, and they would hand your clothes back to you. The only thing you were allowed to bring out was your tennis shoes, socks, um, basketball shorts, and a t-shirt. You couldn't come out fully clothed. You had to come out in you know. So I'm thinking, how this dude get a knife out? And then somebody told me he hooped it. He hooped it. What you mean he hooped it? You know, he wrapped it up in plastic, stuck it in his butt, brought it to the yard. Then he went out to the yard and shit it out and stabbed dude.
Uh-huh.
So after that, a lot of people asked me, was I scared when I was in prison? Every day. You know, all these guys that act like they were super tough back then, no. You see stuff like that, you understand that no matter where you go, you're not safe. If you in the hole and they send word in there, you got it.
And so back then, was there a lot of violence going on? Was there a lot of black on black violence going on, or did the unity
No,
kind of keep that down?
no. It was real unity, because you got to remember, we was just coming off the Black Panther thing, you know what I mean, where everybody was so unified. Each one teach one. You got to take somebody and school them and make sure they knew everything they were supposed to know. Everything back then was about education. Everything you did was about education. And some lessons were hands-on lessons, because like a lot of people today don't know, like they'll tell you don't walk around the day room with your shower shoes on. Remember that?
Right.
Okay, back then you didn't wear shower shoes, period. When you got in the shower, you showered with your boots on. You showered in your underwear. You never took off your underwear. You never took off your boots. And when I first got there, I came downstairs, took, and there's always two guys there watching the shower. They're always clothed, and they got knives. So couldn't nobody else run in the shower. So I get in the shower. I figure I'm pretty safe. Take off all my clothes, put on my shower shoes. I get in the shower, and I look around, and I notice I'm the only one naked in the shower.
Hmm.
And so one of the older brothers starts stepping on my feet. And when he's stepping on my feet, I'm like, what? And I'm looking, but he kept stepping on my feet. And then as you looking around, like, because you wondering why is he stepping on your feet. And I'm looking down, and I see I'm the only one in the shower with shower shoes on. Everybody else got boots on.
Hmm.
I'm the only one in the shower with no underwear on. So I get out, put my boots on, put my underwear on, and then dude told me, he said, never, ever take your boots off or get in this shower butt naked, ever. And that's some lessons, that's how you learn.
And you had mentioned to me something about the brothers had a 5-to-1 get back revenge policy. Can you explain a little bit about that?
If you were another race and you touched a brother, the thing was 5-for-1. If you touch one of ours, we knocking 5 of yours down. So if you stab one brother and you were white, we were going to stab 5 whites. And it just made it so that you knew the consequences of messing with the black community.
And so by you being able to serve time in that period, and then later on serve time in a period where prison was full of a lot of Crips and Bloods, getting into it periodically from time to time, and there wasn't as much unity as there was back in the 70s. What was your outlook on that?
A lot of people don't take time to figure anything out. And I used to tell people, there's a lot of history that you guys don't know. Just like a lot of guys don't know Compton Pyrus used to be Crips.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was telling some guys when I was up there with me and you was up there, one of the guys told me, he said, man, don't be saying shit like that. One of his OGs said, damn, Casey, how old are you? And his little homie looked at him and he told his little homie, he said, he's right. We used to be Compton Pyrus Street Crips. You know what I mean? And only dudes, because we used to all go to the Rosecrans skating rink. And we used to, do our thing, right? But an incident happened, and like a lot of these guys that fight against each other were all allies at one time. But now they fighting against each other, and they don't even know why. What caused you to fight against each other? And I used to tell them, I said, I bet you if you peel all the layers back, it's over a female.
Most of the time,
what I mean? Yeah. 8-tray gangsters and the hustlers, they beefing. Okay, what started the beef? Like the Bloods and the Crips, they beefing. What started the beef? It wasn't no such thing as, I can't stand you because you a Blood, because we all used to say young Blood. You know what I mean? So, but what started the beef between us? A female. The thing that happened with the Piru Street Crips at the Rosecrans skating rink, that started over a female.
Mm-hmm.
But see, back in my day, brothers would always say, man, we're not going to fight over no woman. Because, like, I heard Rick Rock talking today about guys beefing over over a female, and she was with a Crip, then she was with a Blood. You know what I mean? Now y'all beefing at each other, then she go get with somebody else. But now y'all are fighting over what?
Yeah.
So I look at it and it's, nobody takes the time to understand that we are our own worst enemy. We fight the Hispanics in prison. We fight the woodpile in prison. You and I both know every now and then we got into it with the Asians. We fight the police and we fight each other. How can we win?
Right. And if you think about it, with all that fighting going on, of course, periodically we are losing soldiers in those fights, through one way or another, going to the hole, going through different yards, some getting hurt or whatever. So basically what we're doing is we are really dwindling down, the number of good soldiers that we may potentially have because all just the infighting.
Yeah. We're depleting our own soldiers. You know what I mean? We nobody takes the time to teach each other anymore.
Right.
I told you, me and you talked, and I told you when I first came and they were teaching you things, you had to learn how to stab somebody and where to stab them at. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they would always send 3-team hit squads. 2 dudes was just occupiers. 1 dude had to hit you in the femoral arteries. You had to know where all the femoral arteries was on the body.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to study that. And when you were studying it, dudes would quiz you on it. Okay, if I was like this, where would you? Well, I hit you right here. You know what I mean? And people was like, oh, why would you hit him? So he can bleed out. Because the people who know San Quentin had the best puncture specialist in California. If you made it to Quentin, they would save your life. Those guys were good as far as punches was concerned. You know what I mean? So they came up with, okay, hit him in his femoral artery, he'll bleed out.
Right. Well, KC, we got another interview that me and you done that's definitely going to be more in depth, talking about prison and how prison was back in your time, man. So I don't want to spoil that one. So I'm gonna get that one edited. I'm gonna definitely get that one up in a day or two, man. And once again, I just like to thank you for coming back on my platform. Sharing your stories with us, sharing your wisdom and your experiences.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. You're welcome anytime.
All right, man. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just thanks for having me, and shout out to the homie Compton Rick Rock.
All right, that's what's up, man. And y'all already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.